Hi, everybody. Good day. So, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we know that this week is Mental Health Awareness Week in certain parts of the world, for example, the UK. And so I decided to do a live. I usually just do my lives for Mental Health Awareness Day and Suicide Awareness Day. So, this is a little bit one, it's a special one. So, there were questions that were posed on my Instagram. And then there were a collection of questions that were posed while we did the Voice Guyana live. And so I intend to answer some of those today. There's a few, so we'll see how many we can get through. So we'll just get right into it. One of the first ones is, what can we do if someone has a mental health illness and can't afford therapy? Now, this was posed by someone from the Voice Guyana Live. And I think that this is a great one in the sense of we can try to be as supportive as possible to our friends or family members who we think may have a mental health issue by giving them the chance to speak about it. So, asking them how they're feeling, asking them what is happening, asking them with open questions. And we encourage persons not to use why. Like, why are you talking like this? Why are you behaving like this? What's going on in your life? So, like, try to stay away from those kinds of questions, making the questions more open, like, how are you feeling this week? How have you been sleeping? Um, what are you thinking about if you can't sleep? What keeps you up at night? Would you like some support with your kids? Would you like some help with your assignment that you may be doing right now? And just kind of offering that support in an open, acceptable, helpful way. And in doing so, we kind of open the conversation. And in doing so, you can then refer them to see a professional because we may not have the capacity, the average person may not have the capacity to help someone through a mental health illness. And so it's important for us to know where to refer persons to. And if you're looking for more information on counselors and psychologists in Georgetown specifically, you can check the page. And if you check in the photos, there's a infographic that we made, compliments of Anil Prasad from Eco Guyana. We put together a list of some psychologists, and I'm also aware that Michelle Amsterdam has another list of resources of persons that you can also seek out there. So that's what I would encourage persons to do. Create a conversation, don't be judgmental, make it open, create the dialogue, and then refer them to someone who can actually help. Now, the second part of the question is, if they can't afford therapy, there are free therapy options out there. The Wellness Center has group therapy, and other agencies will pay the therapist for you. It just depends on which institution you go to. The mental health unit is supposed to be free for Ministry of Health. Public hospital is free, to my understanding. So there are some free options out there. Second question. Does having poor mental health mean I'm crazy? So this is also a question from one of the Voice, I think, members, not during the live, but it was a really good question, I think. Having poor mental health does not make you crazy. We need to start looking at the issues around stigma and addressing them. Having poor mental health does not mean that you're crazy. You could have had great mental health throughout your entire life, and then something tragic happened, a death, a car accident, being robbed, your house burned down, and all of a sudden your mental health is compromised. So definitely you're not crazy. You are going through a difficult time. You might even indeed have a mental health disorder, and that doesn't mean you're crazy. It just means it's something that needs to be dealt with. We look at, as Ray made a great example at the end of the last live, was that if you broke your arm, would you neglect it? Would you not go to the hospital and try to treat it? And so that's why we have to start looking at the stigma around mental health and understanding that, especially during COVID-19, we are going to have persons who are going to suffer from a lot of challenges, whether it be worry, anxiety, job safety, taking care of children, frustration while trying to take care of children and work a job. You might even have some instances of of loneliness, those things are totally normal during this period of time. And so definitely understanding you are not crazy. You just need a little bit more support at this point in time, and that's okay. Another question came in from the live, which was, is there any particular timeline associated with the issues of mental health disorders? Um, what I understand this person's trying to ask is if they are particular times in someone's life that they may suffer from a mental health disorder. Some disorders have an onset period, and that onset period sometimes can start as young as 16, can go around 18 or even 21. What we've noticed is that the onset for many young people's disorders, especially anxiety and depression, is usually with the beginning of tertiary education, university, relationships, marriage, that kind of thing. So it's usually a stressful event in their life. And so, yeah, you can have the onset of your disorder starting as young as 16, 18, and around 21. It just depends on what is the stressor, extreme stressor at that time. Of course, we then look at what we call older person's disorders. So dementia, Alzheimer's, any kind of cognitive disability near older years. So we see that in persons who are more like in their 60s and above. And so that can be also the onset of what we call older people disorders. Things like postpartum, that is the onset of that comes after or even during when you're pregnant and then after you've given birth. And so that would have its own timeline as well. So there are some disorders that do have a timeline when it comes to the onset of a mental health disorder. Not saying that if you had good mental health, like I said previously, you had good mental health up until you were 30, but something tragically happens then and you suffer from some kind of trauma, yeah, you might have the onset of PTSD at any point in time. Right, so somebody asked in the Voice Guyana, as you can see, there's tons of questions from Voice Guyana, which I was really happy about. Body image and mental health. At this time, they said they just want to talk about body image and mental health at this time, and I asked at this time. So what I'm thinking the person is trying to ask is separately, and I might have this separate live just on body image and mental health, but I can speak about the time during COVID. There are going to be persons who are going to have increased anxiety about body image related issues during COVID. Why? Because the gyms are closed, we don't have structure, we don't have our routines, we may not be able to afford to eat the way we did in terms of like healthy eating, we may not have time to food prep, we definitely are not working out in gyms. And so we're going to see a change in maybe even our muscle mass. We might lose weight, we might gain weight because we don't have the structure of gyms. We don't have the community for those persons who like to work out together. You know, CrossFit is a community-based activity. Going to Rose at Blaze for those whoever's calling me, I'm in a session. Those persons are used to having that community sense while working out. And so definitely the sense of community is taken away at this point in time. I know that persons who are engaged in meditation and yoga, somebody told me that they have now a Zoom for one of these organizations in Ghana who is doing, so they're doing yoga together. So you might be lucky enough to have a friend at the gym who you guys can work out together over Zoom. And so that would be an option that you can consider. But definitely that support, body changes, schedule changes, routine, and eating during COVID is going to affect how we look at our body, how we love our body, how we feel about our body. And like I said, that could be weight gain, muscle loss, and weight loss as well. A question came in from the Instagram, which was good, which is, and both came in, another question similar came in on the Voice, again, Voice Live, which was parenting and being at home and at work. And there was they wanted tips. So I'm gonna do a separate live just on parenting during COVID because I feel like that needs a whole 20 minutes on its own. So I'll come back to that another week, I promise. Remind me if I don't. Um, Being religious during COVID-19, can it help? So yeah, of course. Now we talked about this before in the sense that similar to the gym, your sense of community has been taken away. Group prayers, group congregations, um, being in mass together, all those things have been taken away due to COVID-19. But we still have to consider that, and I remember somebody made a good distinction. There's a difference between faith and religion. You can have your religious practices partially taken away at this point in time, but that doesn't mean that you've lost faith. And faith really has to do with your relationship and some higher power, whether it's God, Allah, Hindu gods, whatever the case may be. For other religions, Rastafarianism, Baha'is, your faith is still there. Your faith has not been taken away. And so you can continue to practice. I can encourage persons to make a little altar in their homes with candles and incense and the picture of whomever you're praying to. You can do the same thing for bereavement as well, like I mentioned before. You can create an altar, a place to still feel connected with whomever it is that you're missing or whomever it is that you are intending to have a relationship with. So religious practices and being religious can still happen during COVID-19. And the last question, are there any positive traits that may result from the pandemic? Absolutely. Absolutely. We are talking about all the things that we're missing, but all the things that we're gaining from COVID-19 is really, really great in the sense of we are learning how to adapt. The people who are going to be able to adapt during COVID-19 are the people who are probably going to be, very successful for the rest of their life, quite honestly, because they've learned to maneuver and work through and be successful during a pandemic. Not to say the persons who are having a hard time during the pandemic are not going to be successful once the pandemic has lifted. But there are a lot of things that you can learn to function well. You are learning new skills every day. You're learning to parent. You're learning to be a teacher while doing your own work. You're learning to juggle the boundaries of having to work at home with varying time schedules. You are learning new skills like maybe you're engaging in your family, in cooking and cleaning, and learning to be competitive. You may also have taken up a new hobby, for example, planting, gardening. Those are all great things that you can say. You flexed your green thumb during the pandemic. You might even have picked up another hobby. You might have picked up another job online. You might have started studying. There's so many good things that can come out from COVID-19. You've learned to embrace your faith even without spaces of religious worship. You have learned to be okay with being alone. For those persons who are living alone during this pandemic, you are learning, even though it might be hard, you are learning to live alone and learning how to work through loneliness. I actually sat in this really great Zoom in Toronto at my old university, York University, and we were going through loneliness and COVID-19. And one of the things that came out of the discussion was that the psychologist was saying that it's a great opportunity to learn to be alone and to learn to grow and to take that time to meet with yourself, be introspective with yourself, learn things that you can advance yourself in, be okay and have those conversations and say, hey, before COVID, I had a hard time being alone, but you come out of this and you're like, I can eat by myself, I can cook by myself, I can do the household things that I need to do by myself. And that's a great thing to be able to say that you're independent. And I'm not saying, oh, don't depend on people, but being able to do things by yourself is a really great feeling. I mean, I have been doing things by myself since I was about 17 years old. And so I'm very comfortable eating in public by myself. I've done it even in Guyana. And I'm pretty sure, and I got some weird looks, right? So, because for me, I wanted dim sum and I just wanted to go and have it. And who cared if I didn't have company? And I went one Sunday, drove down myself, and had dim sum, sat at a table by myself, and had dim sum because there was something that I wanted to do, right? And so for me, I encourage persons to be okay with being by yourself, watching movies by yourself, um, doing projects by yourself. I painted my whole bathroom by myself. Um, I fixed things in my house by myself. So for me, I think that um, it's a good opportunity to embrace alone time. And like I see Ray is saying introspection is important. This is a great time to ask, what are the things that aren't going well in your life other than COVID? Before COVID, was your life perfect? Probably not. You know, um, what are some of the things that you want to improve when COVID's over? What are some of the things, what friends you want to connect with? What friends you want to stop engaging with because they're not contributing to your development? Is there a hobby or a activity that you want to get involved in after this is all done? Maybe you've seen some of the charitable work being done. You're like, I want to contribute to that. So yeah, there are many, many positive traits that will come out of COVID-19. And so I'm encouraging persons to take this time to sit down with yourself, write things down, get a blank piece of paper if you want, a big Sharpie. I find those are very fun when you got like a big Sharpie. What is positive about my life? What is things I'm grateful for? What are things do I want to improve on when COVID is done? What are things that I want to get involved in when COVID is done? Right? And so those are some of the things that I would say. Now that kind of answers all the questions that were not answered from the live with Voice Guyana. So Ray, just letting you know, I answered the rest of the questions that I found on the comments. So if you want, if Voice Guyana wants to put this out, they can, or if you want to put this out, you can do so. So the persons who did have their questions commented on the questions or commented their questions and get an answer, they can get an answer now, right? So I would say that these are some of the questions that were brought in. We also, like I said, there's a whole question on tips parenting at this point in time. That is going to have to be a separate video altogether, just because it's going to be lengthy, I think. And so I prefer not to tack that question onto this, even though it was also asked in Voice Guyana. So thank you all for tuning in. Like I said before, it's Mental Health Month, and May is always Mental Health Month. And I think that this is like I tell people, every day is Mental Health Day to me. So I try to get out my videos whenever I can, and so I encourage you all to take this moment to, if you miss bits of it, go back and listen to the rest of it, and then share. Thank you for all listening, and like I've said before, continue to send your questions, and I will be happy to look into them and answer them. Just like I said, I'll be answering the parenting question another day, and I will make sure I put it out there so those who are interested in parenting during COVID can join on. Okay? Have a great day. And like I said, if you missed, for those who are now popping on, if you missed the video, you can go back by all means and just rewatch it, re-listen to it, and share it out, because you never know, maybe somebody